Have you ever noticed how the harder you chase balance, the further away it seems to drift? You tell yourself that once everything lines up, once the relationship feels stable, once the career stops pulling you in 10 directions, once the stress finally settles, then you will feel at peace. But that moment never quite arrives, does it? And here is the truth that most people born under the sign of Libra never hear clearly enough. Balance is not something that falls into your lap. It is not something the universe delivers to your doorstep because you waited long enough or wished hard enough. Balance is something you build one deliberate choice at a time. And the way you have been approaching it, waiting for the world around you to calm down before you start making moves, that approach has been stealing years from you. Real years. Years you cannot get back. Today we are going to change that pattern completely. What you are about to hear is not a generic list of advice that applies to everyone. This is specific to you. This is built around the energy that defines how you think, how you feel, how you love, and how you hesitate. And yes, we are going to talk about that hesitation because it is one of the most misunderstood parts of who you are. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why you have been stuck, exactly what has been draining you, and most importantly, exactly how to start creating the kind of life that feels aligned from the inside out. So stay with me because this is going to shift something deep. Tip 1. Stop treating every decision like a life sentence. There is something that happens inside your mind every time a decision lands in front of you, and it does not matter whether that decision is small or enormous. Your brain treats it all the same way. You weigh, you measure, you flip the options back and forth, examining every angle, every possible outcome, every potential reaction from every person involved. And somewhere in that process, something freezes. Not because you are incapable of choosing, but because you are terrified of choosing wrong. Let me say that again because it matters. You are not indecisive. You are afraid of imbalance. Those are two very different things. The world has told you your entire life that you cannot make up your mind, that you sit on the fence too long, that you overthink everything into paralysis. But what is actually happening is far more sophisticated than that. You are running complex emotional calculations in your head, trying to find the one path that keeps everything stable, that does not upset anyone, that does not throw your world into chaos. And the problem is not that you think too much. The problem is that you believe every single decision carries the weight of permanence. You treat a Tuesday afternoon choice like it is going to define the rest of your existence. And that belief, that quiet, unspoken belief, is what locks you in place. Here is what nobody tells you. Most decisions are reversible. Most choices can be adjusted, corrected, redirected. The meal you order at a restaurant does not define your character. The job you take does not have to be the last job you ever hold. The relationship you enter does not have to be the final chapter of your love story. Life is not a single photograph. It is a moving picture, constantly shifting, constantly offering new frames. And when you start treating decisions as experiments instead of life sentences, something remarkable happens. You start moving. You start choosing faster. You start trusting yourself more. And the irony, the beautiful irony, is that the balance you have been chasing for so long starts to appear naturally, not because you forced it, but because you stopped standing still long enough for it to find you. This week, I want you to practice something. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into analysis about a choice, ask yourself one question. Will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, give yourself 60 seconds and choose. Do not consult 3 friends. Do not make a list of pros and cons. Do not sleep on it. Just choose and move forward. You will be stunned by how much lighter you feel. You will be amazed at how much energy you reclaim when you stop pouring it all into decisions that were never as heavy as you made them. The paralysis you have been living with is not a personality flaw. It is a habit, and habits can be broken. Starting right now, starting today, you are going to prove to yourself that you are more than capable of making fast, confident, clear decisions. And the ones that turn out imperfect, you will adjust. Because that is what strong people do. They do not wait for perfection. They move and they correct as they go. Tip 2. Stop absorbing everyone else's emotional weather. You walk into a room and within seconds, you can feel the tension between two people who are pretending everything is fine. You can sense the sadness behind someone's smile. You can detect the frustration that someone is trying to swallow before it spills out. This is one of your greatest gifts, this ability to read the emotional atmosphere of any space you enter. But it has also become one of your greatest burdens because you do not just read those emotions. You absorb them. You take them in. You carry them as if they belong to you. And over time, that weight becomes crushing. Think about how many times you have gone to bed exhausted, not because of anything that happened in your own life, but because you spent the entire day managing someone else's feelings. Think about how many arguments you have mediated, how many friends you have talked off a ledge, how many family members you have calmed down, how many coworkers you have reassured. Now think about this. How often does someone do that for you? The answer, if you are honest, is rarely. And that imbalance, that invisible imbalance, is eating you alive. You have built your entire identity around being the person who keeps the peace, the one who smooths things over, the one who makes sure everyone else is comfortable. And in doing that, you have completely neglected your own emotional needs. You have pushed your own feelings to the bottom of the list so many times that you have started to forget what your own feelings even sound like. Here is what I need you to understand. Other people's emotions are not your responsibility. Their anger is not yours to fix. Their sadness is not yours to carry. Their anxiety is not yours to absorb. You can care about people deeply, genuinely, and wholeheartedly without taking on their emotional weight. Those are not mutually exclusive. You can love someone and still say, I am not going to let your storm become my storm. You can support someone and still protect your own energy. You can be present for someone without disappearing from yourself. The shift I am asking you to make is not about becoming cold or distant or uncaring. It is about installing a filter. Right now you have no filter. Everything comes in. Every mood, every conflict, every unspoken tension. It all floods through you like water through an open gate. What you need is a gate that you control. One that lets in what serves you and keeps out what drains you. Start practicing this today. When you feel yourself starting to absorb someone else's emotional state, pause. Take a breath and ask yourself, is this mine? Is this my feeling? Or am I borrowing it from someone else? 9 times out of 10, you will realize it is borrowed. And borrowed emotions do not deserve the space you have been giving them. You deserve to feel your own feelings first. You deserve to tend to your own emotional garden before you start watering everyone else's. And the people who truly love you, the ones who are worth keeping close, they will not just accept that boundary. They will respect it. They will be grateful for it. Because a version of you that is emotionally full, emotionally present, emotionally clear, that is the version of you that can actually help people in a meaningful way. The drained, depleted, exhausted version that has been showing up lately, that version cannot help anyone, including yourself. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. Reclaim your voice before it disappears completely. There is something you have been doing for so long that you probably do not even notice it anymore. You edit yourself. Not just occasionally, not just in high-stakes situations, but constantly. Every conversation you enter, you are running a quiet internal program that asks, what does this person want to hear? What version of my opinion will cause the least friction? How can I say what I think without making anyone uncomfortable? And the result is that the people around you rarely hear what you actually think. They hear a softened, polished, carefully adjusted version of your thoughts. A version that has been sanded down so many edges that it barely resembles the original. And you have gotten so good at this that most people in your life have no idea it is happening. They think they know you. They think they understand your opinions, your preferences, your boundaries. But what they actually know is the curated version, the presentation, the performance. And here is where this gets dangerous. When you spend years performing a version of yourself that is designed to keep the peace, you start to lose track of who you actually are underneath the performance. Your real voice, the one that has strong opinions and clear preferences and firm boundaries, that voice gets quieter and quieter until one day you wake up and realize you cannot hear it at all. That is the moment of crisis. That is the moment when the anxiety spikes and the depression creeps in and you feel lost in a way that you cannot explain to anyone because from the outside, your life looks perfectly fine. But inside you are screaming. Inside, you are drowning in a sea of other people's expectations that you have been swimming in for so long you forgot there was a shore. I am telling you right now, there is a shore. And it starts with one simple, terrifying act. Saying what you actually think. Not what you think people want to hear. Not the diplomatic version, not the softened version, the real version. Start small if you need to. The next time someone asks where you want to eat, do not say, "I do not mind, you choose." Say the name of the place you actually want to go. The next time someone asks your opinion on something, do not hedge. Do not qualify. Do not wrap your answer in so many disclaimers that the actual point gets buried. Just say it, clearly, directly, and then sit with the discomfort that follows, because there will be discomfort. Your nervous system has been trained to interpret directness as danger. It has been conditioned to believe that stating your truth will lead to conflict, and conflict will lead to rejection, and rejection will lead to isolation. But that chain of logic is built on fear, not reality. In reality, the people who matter will not reject you for being honest. They will draw closer. They will trust you more. They will feel safer around you because they will know that what you say is what you mean. And the people who do reject you for being honest, they were never safe people to begin with. They were people who needed you to be small so they could feel big. And you do not need those people in your life. Not anymore. Your voice is not a weapon. It is not something that destroys relationships. It is the foundation on which real relationships are built. And every day you spend silencing it is a day you spend building your life on sand instead of stone. Tip 4. Let go of the fantasy that fairness will save you. You believe in fairness more deeply than almost anyone you know. It is woven into the fabric of how you see the world. When something feels unfair, it does not just bother you. It haunts you, keeps you up at night. It replays in your mind on a loop, and you cannot let it go until some sense of justice has been restored. And on the surface, that sounds like a noble quality. But underneath, it is destroying your peace. Because here is the hard truth that nobody wants to say out loud. The world is not fair. It never has been. Never will be. And the sooner you accept that, not as a defeat but as a liberation, the sooner you will stop wasting your precious energy fighting battles that were never yours to win. Think about how much time you have spent being angry about things you cannot change. Think about the hours you have lost replaying conversations where someone treated you poorly, rehearsing the perfect comeback, imagining the moment when they finally see how wrong they were. Now think about what you could have done with those hours, what you could have built, what you could have created, what you could have experienced. That is the real cost of your obsession with fairness. It is not just emotional, it is existential. It is stealing your life from you, one frustrating moment at a time. I am not asking you to become someone who tolerates injustice. I am not asking you to roll over and accept bad treatment. What I am asking you to do is something far more radical than that. I am asking you to choose your battles, to recognize that not every unfairness requires your intervention, to understand that some situations, no matter how wrong they feel, are simply not worth the energy it would take to correct them. There is a prayer that has been around for generations, and even if you are not a religious person, the wisdom in it applies perfectly to you. It talks about having the serenity to accept what you cannot change, the courage to change what you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That last part, the wisdom to know the difference, that is where your growth lies. Because right now, you treat everything as changeable. Every slight, every injustice, every imbalance, you believe that if you just push hard enough, argue persuasively enough, explain clearly enough, the other person will see the light. But some people do not want to see the light. Some situations are not going to resolve no matter how much energy you pour into them. And when you finally accept that, when you finally give yourself permission to walk away from fights that are draining you without producing results, you will feel a freedom you have not felt in years, maybe decades. Let fairness be a value you live by, not a war you wage against the world. Be fair in your own actions. Be fair in your own choices. Be fair in how you treat the people around you. But stop demanding that the entire universe operate by the same rules. It will not, and that is okay. Because your peace does not depend on the world being fair. Your peace depends on you choosing where to invest your heart. Tip 5. Stop using harmony as an excuse to avoid hard conversations. You call it keeping the peace. You call it not making a big deal out of things. You call it choosing your battles. But if you are honest with yourself, really deeply honest, you know what it actually is. It is avoidance. And it is costing you every meaningful relationship you have. There is a conversation you need to have right now with someone in your life. Maybe it is with a partner who has been taking you for granted. Maybe it is with a family member who keeps crossing a boundary you have never actually stated out loud. Maybe it is with a friend who only calls when they need something and disappears when you do. You know exactly which conversation I am talking about. You have been rehearsing it in your head for weeks, maybe months, maybe years, and every time you get close to having it, something stops you. A voice inside that says it is not worth the drama. Fear that says, what if they get angry? A belief that says a good person would just let it go. But letting it go has not made the problem disappear, has it? It has made the problem grow. Every time you swallow a truth that needs to be spoken, it does not dissolve. It accumulates. It builds up inside you like pressure in a pipe. And eventually, one of two things happens. Either the pipe bursts and you explode in a way that shocks everyone, including yourself, or the pipe corrodes from the inside, and you slowly fall apart without anyone understanding why. Neither of those outcomes is harmony. Neither of those outcomes is peace. They are the natural consequences of avoiding the hard conversations that healthy relationships require. Here is something I want you to sit with. Conflict is not the opposite of harmony. Avoidance is the opposite of harmony. Real harmony, the kind that lasts, the kind that feels genuine and not performed, that kind of harmony can only exist when all parties feel safe enough to tell the truth. And that means someone has to go first. That someone is you. You are the one who sees the imbalance. You are the one who feels the tension. You are the one who knows that something is off. So you are the one who has to name it. Not with aggression. Not with blame. Not with a list of every wrong the other person has ever committed. But with clarity. With honesty. With the kind of directness that says, I care about this relationship enough to risk a moment of discomfort for the sake of a lifetime of truth. Think about the relationships in your life that feel the most draining right now. I can almost guarantee that every single one of them has at least one unspoken truth sitting between you and the other person. A truth that both of you can feel but neither of you has named. And that unspoken truth is acting like a wall. You can stand on your side of it and pretend it is not there, but it is blocking the connection you both want. The only way to remove it is to speak it. And yes, it might be uncomfortable. Yes, the other person might react badly at first. Yes, there might be tears or raised voices or a period of tension that feels unbearable to someone like you. But on the other side of that discomfort is something you have been craving your entire life. Genuine, honest, unfiltered connection with another human being. Not the polite, surface-level pleasantries you have been settling for. Not the carefully managed relationships where everyone pretends everything is fine. Real connection. The kind where you can say what you feel and know that you will still be loved. That is waiting for you on the other side of the conversation you have been avoiding. And you will never get there by staying silent. Tip 6. Your need to be liked is a chain around your neck. There is a question that runs through your mind more than you would ever admit to another person. Do they like me? It runs when you meet someone new. It runs when you send a text and do not get a response fast enough. It runs when you notice someone's tone shift in a conversation. It runs when you walk into a gathering and cannot immediately read the energy in the room. And this question, this constant, exhausting, relentless question, is running your life. Not in the background, not as a minor influence. It is in the driver's seat, and it has been steering you into decisions that have nothing to do with what you actually want and everything to do with what you think will make other people approve of you. Think about the times you have said yes when everything inside you was screaming no. Think about the events you attended that drained you, the favors you did that you resented, the conversations you participated in that bored you to tears. You did all of those things for one reason, because saying no might make someone not like you. And in your mind, not being liked is the worst possible outcome. Worse than exhaustion. Worse than resentment. Worse than losing yourself entirely. But here is the reality check you need to hear. Not everyone is going to like you, no matter how agreeable you are, no matter how accommodating you become, no matter how many times you bend yourself into a shape that fits someone else's expectations. Some people will not like you, and that has nothing to do with your worth. It has to do with compatibility, with timing, with their own issues and projections and preferences that you have zero control over. And the energy you are spending trying to win the approval of people who are never going to give it to you, that energy could be going towards something so much more valuable. It could be going toward the people who already love you exactly as you are. It could be going toward the dreams you have been putting on hold because you were too busy being likable to be ambitious. It could be going toward building the life you actually want instead of the life that looks good to observers. I want you to try something radical this week. I want you to do one thing that you know might make someone not like you. Not something cruel. Not something harmful. Just something honest. Decline an invitation you do not want to accept. State an opinion you have been hiding. Set a boundary that you have been afraid to set. And then pay attention to what happens. Pay attention to how it feels. You will notice something strange. The world does not end. The person does not hate you forever. The sky does not fall. And in the space where your fear used to live, something new starts to grow. It might feel unfamiliar at first. You might not even recognize it. But that feeling is freedom. It is the freedom that comes from finally accepting that your value does not depend on unanimous approval. Your value is inherent. It exists whether 10 people love you or 10,000 people love you or nobody in the room knows your name. You are worthy of respect and love and connection not because of how well you perform for others, but because of who you are when you stop performing. Let that sink in. Really let it land. Because once you truly believe it, the chain snaps. And you start living for yourself for the first time in your life. Tip 7. Stop romanticizing the past and start building the future. You have a tendency that sneaks up on you when life gets difficult, and it is more dangerous than you realize. When the present moment feels hard, when things are uncertain or painful or confusing, your mind does something automatic. It reaches back into the past and pulls out a memory, a golden, glowing, carefully edited memory, and holds it up next to the messy present as proof that things used to be better. That old relationship was so perfect. That old job was so fulfilling. That old version of yourself was so much happier. But here is what your mind conveniently leaves out of those memories. The old relationship also had fights that left you crying in the bathroom at 2 in the morning. The old job also had a boss who did not appreciate you and a commute that ate your soul. The old version of yourself also lay awake at night wondering if things would ever get better. You are not remembering the past. You are remembering a fantasy, a highlight reel, a carefully curated collection of the good moments with all the pain edited out. And that fantasy is keeping you stuck. Because as long as you believe the past was better, you have no motivation to build something new. Why would you invest in a future that could never measure up to a memory that never actually existed? This is the trap, and it is one of the most subtle traps your mind sets for you. It does not feel like a trap. Feels like wisdom. Feels like perspective. It feels like you are simply being realistic about the fact that things used to be different. But it is not realism. It is nostalgia, and nostalgia is a liar. It shows you what you want to see and hides what it does not want you to remember. And you, with your deep appreciation for beauty and harmony and balance, you are especially susceptible to its pull. Because the past, when filtered through nostalgia, looks balanced. It looks harmonious. It looks like everything your present life is not. But that is an illusion. Every season of your life has had its struggles. Every chapter has had its challenges. And the chapter you are in right now, the one that feels hard and uncertain and messy, this chapter also has beauty in it. You are just too busy looking backward to see it. I want you to make a commitment today. Not a big, dramatic commitment, just a quiet, personal one. Commit to spending one full day without referencing the past. One day where you do not compare your current relationship to the old one. One day where you do not think about how things used to be. One day where you are fully, completely, unapologetically present in the life you have right now. And during that day, notice what you see when you stop looking backward. Notice the small joys you have been overlooking. Notice the people who are right in front of you, loving you in real time, not in memory. Notice the opportunities that are available to you now, today, in this moment, that did not exist in the golden past your mind keeps constructing. The past is not coming back. And honestly, even if it could, you would not want it to. Not if you saw it clearly. Not if you saw it without the filter. What you want is not the past. What you want is the feeling of peace you associate with the past. And that feeling is available to you right now. Not through a time machine. Through presence. Through gratitude. Through the radical act of deciding that this moment, this imperfect, complicated, messy moment, is enough. Tip 8. Your indulgence is not self-care, it is self-sabotage. You love beautiful things. You love comfort. You love the feeling of being surrounded by elegance and softness and luxury. And there is nothing wrong with any of that. Beauty is one of your core values. And honoring that value is part of living authentically. But there is a line between honoring your love of beauty and using pleasure as a way to avoid pain. And you have been crossing that line more often than you want to admit. Think about the last time you felt stressed. What did you do? Maybe you went shopping for something you did not need. Maybe you ate something that felt good in the moment but terrible afterward. Maybe you poured a glass of something strong and told yourself you deserved it. Maybe you spent hours scrolling through images of beautiful places and beautiful lives while your own life sat unattended in the background. None of those things are inherently harmful in moderation, but you are not doing them in moderation. You are doing them as a replacement for dealing with what is actually wrong. And the problem with that strategy is that it works just well enough to keep you stuck. The shopping gives you a little rush that masks the anxiety for an hour. The food gives you a little comfort that covers the loneliness for an evening. The scrolling gives you a little escape that postpones the hard questions for another day. But the anxiety is still there when the credit card bill arrives. The loneliness is still there when the plates are cleared. The hard questions are still there when you put the phone down. You have not solved anything. You have just decorated the problem so it looks pretty enough to ignore. This is the shadow side of your love for beauty. It is the tendency to make things look good instead of making things be good. To smooth over the surface instead of addressing the foundation. To choose the aesthetically pleasing option instead of the genuinely healing one. Real self-care is not always beautiful. Sometimes it looks like a difficult conversation with a therapist. Sometimes it looks like sitting alone in a quiet room and letting yourself feel something you have been running from. Sometimes it looks like canceling plans so you can rest even though resting feels unproductive and unproductive feels wrong. Sometimes it looks like admitting that you are not okay, really admitting it, not to get sympathy but to get honest with yourself about where you are. I want you to examine your comfort habits this week. Not with judgment, not with shame, just with curiosity. Look at the things you reach for when life gets hard and ask yourself, is this helping me heal? Or is it helping me hide? There is a big difference between those two things, and your future depends on learning to tell them apart. The version of you that is truly thriving, that is genuinely balanced and at peace, that version does not need constant indulgence to get through the day. That version sits with discomfort when it arrives, processes it, learns from it, and then lets it pass. That version of you is not weaker. That version is the strongest you have ever been. And reaching that version requires one thing above all: honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable, undecorated honesty about what you are actually doing and why you are actually doing it. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. Build a life that does not need an audience. There is something you might not have fully recognized about yourself yet, and it is this. A large part of how you evaluate your own life is based on how it appears to other people. Not in a vain way, not in a shallow way, in a deeply ingrained, almost unconscious way that has been operating inside you for so long that you barely notice it anymore. You measure your success not by how fulfilled you feel, but by how impressed others seem. You measure your relationships not by how deeply connected you are, but by how good you look together. You measure your choices not by how aligned they are with your values, but by how much approval they generate. And this external measuring stick has been giving you inaccurate readings for your entire life. Because what looks good from the outside and what feels good from the inside are often completely different things. The relationship that everyone admired might have been the loneliest experience of your life. The career that everyone envied might have been slowly destroying your health. The social life that everyone praised might have been leaving you more drained than fulfilled. You kept those things going not because they were working but because they looked like they were working. And that distinction, the gap between appearance and reality, that is where so much of your unhappiness lives. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that nobody could see your life. Imagine that there was no social media, no family gatherings where people ask what you have been up to, no friends comparing milestones, no neighbors watching through the window. If nobody could see your life, what would you change? Really think about that. What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? What would you finally admit that you do not enjoy? What would you finally pursue that you have been afraid to try because it might look strange or unconventional or beneath you? The answers to those questions, those are the directions your authentic self is trying to pull you toward. Those are the choices that would actually bring you peace. And the only thing standing between you and those choices is your addiction to being perceived a certain way. Breaking that addiction does not happen overnight. It is not a single moment of revelation. It is a daily practice of checking in with yourself and asking, am I doing this because I want to, or because I want to be seen doing it? Am I choosing this because it aligns with who I am, or because it aligns with who I want people to think I am? Those are different questions, and they lead to very different lives. The life you build for an audience will always feel hollow. It will always require maintenance, performance, upkeep. You will always be one unflattering angle away from anxiety. But the life you build for yourself, the one that is designed around what actually matters to you, what actually brings you joy, what actually makes you feel alive, that life does not need an audience. It does not need applause. It does not need validation. It sustains itself because it is real. And real things do not need external support to stand. They stand on their own. Start building that life today. One honest choice at a time. One authentic decision at a time. One moment of choosing inner truth over outer appearance at a time. It will feel strange at first, like wearing clothes that do not fit the image you have been projecting. But over time, as you grow into this new way of living, you will realize something extraordinary. Those clothes fit perfectly. They always did. You were just wearing someone else's wardrobe and wondering why nothing felt right. Tip 10. Understand that loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. You are one of the most partnership-oriented signs in the entire zodiac. And that is not a criticism. Your desire for connection, for companionship, for shared experience, that is a beautiful and deeply human quality. But somewhere along the way, that desire crossed a line from healthy to desperate. And I use that word carefully because I know it stings. But the truth sometimes stings, and you need to hear this one. You have been so afraid of being alone that you have accepted relationships, friendships, and situations that you knew were wrong for you, simply because they were better than the alternative of having no one. You stayed with someone who did not value you because leaving meant being alone. You kept a friendship alive that was purely one-sided because ending it meant having one fewer person in your life. You went along with plans you hated because declining meant spending the evening by yourself, and spending the evening by yourself felt like a failure. But here is the distinction that will change everything for you. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is the pain of feeling disconnected, even when you are surrounded by people. It is the ache of being in a room full of faces and still feeling unseen. And here is the twist that most people miss. You can be lonelier in a bad relationship than you would ever be alone. You can be lonelier at a party full of acquaintances than you would be sitting quietly in your own home with a cup of tea and a book. Loneliness is not about the absence of people. It is about the absence of genuine connection. Solitude, on the other hand, is something entirely different. Solitude is the deliberate, chosen experience of being with yourself. It is not a punishment. It is not a failure. It is a practice. And for someone like you, someone who has spent their entire life tuning into other people's needs and other people's feelings and other people's energy, solitude is not just beneficial. It is essential. It is the space where you reconnect with your own thoughts. It is the silence where you finally hear your own voice. It is the emptiness that is not really empty at all but full of you, just you without the noise and the opinions and the expectations of everyone else. I am asking you to start courting solitude the way you court companionship. Make time for it. Protect it. Treat it as sacred. One evening a week where you are alone on purpose. Not alone because plans fell through. Not alone because no one was available. Alone because you chose it. Because you need it. Because the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of every other relationship in your life, and you have been neglecting it. During those evenings, do not distract yourself. Do not fill the silence with noise. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself how you are really doing. Not the answer you give other people when they ask. The real answer. The one you have been hiding. The one that might make you cry. That is the answer you need to hear. Because once you hear it, once you acknowledge it, once you stop running from it, you can start addressing it. And addressing it is where the real healing begins. The version of you that is comfortable alone is the version of you that will never settle for less than you deserve in any relationship. Because when you know you can be happy by yourself, you stop accepting connections out of desperation and start accepting them out of genuine desire. And that shift from desperation to desire, that is the shift that changes everything. Tip 11. Stop waiting for permission to live your own life. There is a pattern in your life that is so quiet, so subtle, that you might not even see it as a pattern. But it is there, and it has been there for as long as you can remember. You wait for permission. Not literal permission. Nobody is handing you a signed document telling you it is okay to pursue your dreams. But emotional permission. Energetic permission. The sense that the people around you are okay with the direction you want to go before you take a single step. You check in with others before you make changes. You gauge reactions before you commit. You float ideas like trial balloons, watching carefully to see if anyone flinches, and if they do, you quietly abandon the idea and pretend you never cared about it in the first place. And this pattern has stolen more from you than you will probably ever calculate. Think about the things you wanted to do 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The career change you considered and then dropped because someone raised an eyebrow. The creative project you started and then abandoned because someone made a dismissive comment. The move you wanted to make, the hobby you wanted to pursue, the style you wanted to try, the boundary you wanted to set. How many of those things did you let go of, not because you decided they were wrong for you, but because you sensed that someone else was uncomfortable with them? The answer is probably staggering. And the worst part is that the people whose approval you were seeking probably do not even remember those moments. They made an offhand comment and moved on with their day. But you internalized it. You treated it as a verdict. You let a single raised eyebrow overrule an entire dream. Here is the truth that will set you free if you let it. You do not need anyone's permission to live your life. You do not need your partner's enthusiasm for your career change. You do not need your family's approval for your lifestyle choices. You do not need your friends' validation for your creative pursuits. Those things are nice to have. They are wonderful bonuses, but they are not prerequisites. The only permission you need is your own. And you have been withholding it from yourself for far too long. This is not about being reckless or selfish or dismissive of the people you love. This is about recognizing that your life belongs to you, not to your partner, not to your parents, not to your children, not to your friends, not to society, to you. And every day you spend living according to someone else's blueprint is a day you spend betraying yourself. Start giving yourself permission today. Permission to want what you want without justifying it. Permission to pursue what excites you without apologizing for it. Permission to say no to things that drain you without explaining your reasons. Permission to change your mind, to change direction, to change your entire life if that is what it takes to feel alive again. The people who love you for who you really are will adjust. They will support your growth even when it surprises them. And the people who need you to stay small, to stay predictable, to stay within the lines they have drawn for you, those people are not loving you. They are managing you. And you are done being managed. You are a grown adult with decades of experience and wisdom and intuition. Trust that. Trust yourself. You have been waiting your whole life for someone to tell you it is okay to be who you are. I am telling you now. It is okay. More than okay. It is necessary. It is urgent. It is long overdue. Stop waiting. Start living. Tip 12. Your greatest strength is not what you think it is. If I asked you right now what your greatest strength is, you would probably say something about your ability to see both sides. Your fairness. Your diplomacy. Your capacity to understand perspectives that are completely different from your own. And those are real strengths. They are valuable. They have served you well in many situations. But they are not your greatest strength. Your greatest strength is something you have been treating as a weakness your entire life. It is your sensitivity. Your deep, overwhelming, sometimes paralyzing sensitivity to the world around you. The same sensitivity that makes you absorb other people's emotions. The same sensitivity that makes decisions feel unbearably heavy. The same sensitivity that makes conflict feel like physical pain. That sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a superpower that you have never been taught how to use. Think about what that sensitivity actually gives you. It gives you the ability to understand people on a level that most human beings never access. It gives you the capacity for empathy that makes others feel truly seen, sometimes for the first time in their lives. It gives you an aesthetic awareness that allows you to create beauty in ways that take other people's breath away. It gives you an emotional intelligence that, when properly channeled, can navigate any social situation, resolve any conflict, and build connections that last a lifetime. The problem is not your sensitivity. The problem is that nobody ever taught you how to manage it. Nobody gave you the tools to regulate the flood of input that comes with being this open to the world. So you did the only thing you knew how to do. You tried to shut it down. You tried to numb it. You tried to build walls around it. And in doing so, you blocked out not just the pain but the gifts that come with it. What you need is not less sensitivity. You need better boundaries around it. You need a way to let the beauty in while keeping the toxicity out. You need practices that ground you when the emotional flood gets too intense. You need a support system that understands what you are carrying and helps you carry it instead of telling you to stop being so sensitive. Because when your sensitivity is properly supported and properly channeled, it does not drain you, fuels you. It becomes the engine behind your creativity, your compassion, your ability to make the world a more beautiful place simply by being in it. That is your real gift. Not diplomacy, not balance, not fairness. Sensitivity, the ability to feel deeply in a world that is constantly telling people not to feel at all. Do not let anyone convince you that this is a weakness. It is the reason you are here. It is the thing that makes you irreplaceable. And the moment you stop apologizing for it and start embracing it, everything in your life shifts. Everything. Because you stop fighting against your own nature and start flowing with it. And when you flow with your nature instead of against it, the balance you have been searching for your entire life does not just appear. It becomes your natural state. So here we are. You have heard things today that part of you has always known but never quite put into words. You have heard about the decisions you have been afraid to make, the emotions you have been carrying that were never yours, the voice you have been silencing to keep the peace. You have heard about the fairness you have been demanding from an unfair world, the conversations you have been avoiding, the approval you have been chasing at the cost of your own freedom. You have heard about the past you have been romanticizing, the indulgence you have been mistaking for self-care, the audience you have been performing for, and the solitude you have been running from. And through all of it, one thread has been constant. You have been waiting. Waiting for the world to settle down. Waiting for other people to change. Waiting for permission. Waiting for a sign. Waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. And the reason it never comes is that the perfect moment is not something you find. It is something you create. It is something you build with your hands and your heart, and your willingness to be imperfect in a world that has told you perfection is the only acceptable option. You are not going to get the balance you crave by standing still. You are not going to find peace by avoiding conflict. You are not going to build the life you want by waiting for someone else to hand it to you. You have to move. You have to choose. You have to speak your truth even when your voice shakes. You have to set boundaries even when it makes people uncomfortable. You have to let go of relationships that are draining you even when it means being alone for a while. You have to stop decorating your pain and start dealing with it. You have to stop performing for an audience and start living for yourself. None of this is easy. I am not going to pretend it is. But you are not someone who was built for easy. You were built for meaningful. You were built for deep. You were built for the kind of life that other people look at and feel inspired by, not because it looks perfect from the outside, but because it radiates something real from the inside. That life is waiting for you, not in the past, not in some distant future, right now, in this moment, in the very next choice you make. So make it count, make it honest, make it yours. You have two options after this video: close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.